It would be amazing if there could be another something like this. You know, it won't ever be this again.
I have to say that we are going to miss the bike shed.
I just couldn't believe it. I just felt like it was a real outrage.
Yeah, I'm really sad.
So then it was such a shock to hear that, it was going to close.
I think if there had been a way to save the bike shed, then we would have done it.
Mike Tyson, the boxer. Yeah, the one that got accused of sexual harassment. Well, it was rape, actually. He went to prison. Yes, but he always denied it, didn't he? I used to have this little Lego set when I was a kid that had these magnets in, and
I was graduating when they set up. I remember interviewing David Lockwood, actually, just interviewing him about how and why he set up the bike sheds, and learning that it was sort of a bit by accident, in that he and Finn just wanted to put a play on, and this was the space that they had available, and then that was successful enough to put on another play and another play, and it sort of became the venue.
And we went all over Exeter looking at attics and garages and all sorts of different spaces, and we came down here and it was an abandoned Chinese restaurant.
First of all, it was disgusting. It needed a lot of work doing to it to get it clean. And the other thing was how it divided up really well into three spaces. She had a really clear bar area, front of house area, had a really clear auditorium and a really clear stage.
People came in through the back door. That was the fun, because this was the stage. We filled in that gap there, so we had a big long stage. And back through that door was the dressing room, and the actors had to go across to the walkabout to go to the toilet.
So we rehearsed there in the depths of January for a week on this new play called The Distance, which is one of the plays that had been submitted to us through the South West New Writing Network.
And we borrowed chairs from a school and then put curtains at the back.
And then opened it on the 8th of Feb. 2010, did 2 previews and then opened it properly on the 10th.
And then we did up 3 weeks, and it was great. People were really like, wow, this is a cool space.
Which is an astonishing achievement, really, to take a beaten up Chinese restaurant and turn it into this.
We talked to the landlord, said, can we just do this a bit longer? So he agreed to let us try it out, test the concept for 4 months. Yeah. And we did 3 of our own productions in that time, and we had friends come down and we did weird cabaret nights, and we had some really dodgy theatre, and we just made something, and we had a lot of fun, and no one got paid, and no one people chipped in.
So the Bike Shed 2010 was everything that we wanted it to be. It was a theatre that was putting on new writing that we were directing and producing, and it was a bar that was a nice, cool place for us and our friends to go to.
Kind of bar area has been kind of upgraded and spruced up a bit since then.
I reckon every pound we've earned in this theatre, we spent over the bar. 2 over the bar.
So I came here, got a job on the bar, and spoke to Emily, who's the artistic developer, and was like, I've got this idea, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay. And I think she thought it was a bit mental. She was like, okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. Just do a scratch night. And I was like, okay, I'll do a scratch.
Eventually, I might always have you, but I'm not saying I'm stunning, but in comparison.
So what we provide is 3 levels of support. There's like grassroots, which basically is the scratch nights. I'll meet anybody for a coffee and have a chat with them. The newsletter, which goes out on a weekly basis. And the unit space, which is a place where people can come do residencies.
I mean, what did she do all day before?
I was at work. Shall I take the meeting? Demonstrate?
Best not.
They made these rules which govern us today.
Between their 16th and 17th year, every resident of the kingdom must find themselves a kin.
Failure to do so leads to expulsion, which equates to death.
More ego supplanted, wanting all the glory. Tony wondering, will this be my legacy?
And then there's the next level up, which is people that we are specifically interested in developing and pushing.
People have been really receptive to chatting about stuff and going, oh, what are you working on next? And often, how can we help to make that happen? How can we support that in some way?
And we also have worked with Worklight Theatre, who Joe's here today. They do labels and monster. So Katie Villa, for example, who has done Wild, is somebody that we identified as somebody we wanted to support, so we gave her free tickets to the theatre for a year. So that's something that was very specific to her, to allow her to come out and see theatre.
Yeah, they've enabled people, certainly ourselves as a theatre company, Substance of Shadow.
And David and Finn were very supportive to us.
You know, anything they can do personally to connect you up, you know, they see it as kind of, there's no skin off their nose. And it's things like that that can end up being incredibly useful.
And actually there's a certain rough and readiness about the bike shed. There's a certain kind of, there's a certain commitment to failing, I think, actually, that the bike shed's always been really keen to tell its artists that actually just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen?
And David has been really supportive, and he sort of, as a part of my appraisal, as a part of my job, it was like, what do you need? And I was like, I need to make this show. And he was like, right, let's make that happen. So I felt supported within my role at the bike shed to make it happen.
So this is their bedroom, and this is the room that my dad died in.
Yeah, it's a really personal show. It does feel like a really safe space, but also I feel like I'm in a really safe space.
If you were to ask me to do an impression of my dad, it would be this. You're just great, Els. You're just great. You could do anything you wanted. You could earn as much money as you wanted to, and you just don't want to. I think that's great. You're just great.
I've got Knox. Just say have a little bit of toffee in it.
As soon as I discovered the bike shed, I essentially made it my mission to work here. From the first moment I walked in, I thought the aesthetic was just incredible. I got a really good vibe from the space.
Nice little intimate place, you know, just a few seats.
Bike shed created a home for us which doesn't exist for us anywhere else actually in the country.
And it's a real family atmosphere here.
It's a very exciting space to perform in.
Theatre doesn't have to be done in that traditional theatre space.
And I definitely think in places like this, where the auditorium is so small and it's so intimate, you really feel a connection with the people on stage.
I mean, I've seen a load of amazing plays. I've seen some that have literally just made me go...
They've provided the kind of inspiration for ourselves to make grassroots theatre, essentially.
There's never a dull moment here. I've met so many really interesting people, seen so many theatre shows that I perhaps wouldn't otherwise have seen.
And still loads of people have no idea we're a theatre. Loads of people go in and say, where are they all going? Like, is that
Really?
Yeah, loads, and that's fine. That's fine. That still amuses me, and I really enjoy kind of taking them on the journey through the doors to see a whole new world that they didn't know was there.
When I heard that it was closing, it's just like, I just couldn't believe it. It's funny, it's sort of always been there.
So then it was such a shock to hear that, it was going to close.
I have to say that we are going to miss the bike shed.
I just couldn't believe it. I just felt like it was a real outrage.
The decision to close was not one that was come to lightly, so it was a bit of a long process, and we definitely as an organisation knew before the public did, because we had to make sure that we put the message out correctly and responsibly as well.
There was definitely talks when we first heard. We sort of tried to do that, but in the end it was just sort of financially not something that we were viably able to do.
I think if there had been a way to save the bike shed, then we would have done it.
I just thought, Jesus, what else is going to get cut back in the county in terms of arts infrastructure?
Let's have a debate about theatre and the arts. Let's invite everyone, all these lovers of theatre who have come and frequented the bike shed over the past years, let's invite them to come along now and to join us in discussing the future of the arts, particularly in light of this closure.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I take that view as well, that it hasn't failed. It's done what it sort of said. It was meant to be here for 3 weeks and it's lasted 8 years, so it's kind of, it's done right. I think that nothing stands still and things change, and so you have to kind of move on with that. We set someone from Arts Council said to me yesterday, it's a brilliant model, isn't it, the bike share, because the bar supports the running cost of the theatre. It's like, yeah, it's a brilliant model when it works. And then when your bar is no longer the most exciting bar in the city, it becomes more difficult. And then you have a question of whether you want to compromise doing what you're doing, or whether you want to move on and take the energy and do something else.
And you're here to see these clowns today? Yeah.
Because my brother Felix did a workshop a few years ago.
Oh yeah? Oh cool.
Thank you for joining me here this afternoon. Not
I think what's wonderful about the Bike Shed has been that it's very much a value-based organisation, so the values of community, the values of supporting artists, the values of the way that you treat people and the way that you kind of work towards supporting independent organisations in the city, that's always been there since the very beginning.
If it's done right, that a community can be built around a theatre space, which makes it slightly more than just a factory where you go in one end to see the show and then leave the other end.
I just hope, this will sort of serve as a template of what it can be like, and hopefully it will be recreated.
It would be amazing if there could be another something like this. It won't ever be this again.
Maybe there's something else in the pipeline for Exeter, we hope.
Theatre does have the potential to transform the way that people live and the way that people feel about themselves.
Yeah.
And that can just be by the subject of what it's talking about, which can be very timely, very universal in its subject matter, or it can just be by the very nature of being collectively in a space with other people and experiencing something different.
I think it's really important for the council to realise and talk and understand what it is that can be done to make sure that the legacy of this place isn't lost.
It'll go down, for me, it'll go down in the history of Exeter.
Good feel, good people, nice things, greatly missed.
I think it's been a fantastic adventure and a fantastic achievement.
This place means something to us all. I mean, it's not just a job. It's so much more than that. This is pretty much my whole life.
And you think, God, we've just made this really unique experience happen, and that's amazing.
So we are sadly going to be poorer as a city without the Bike Shed, I do believe.
I think I've come to appreciate, David Lockwood, how entrepreneurial he's been and what a huge thing he's grown.
I'm not actually 100% sure what David's going to go on to, but I know he's going to go on to do something brilliant.
We couldn't have opened the Bike Shed if we hadn't had stuff from Common Players gave us stuff, the Phoenix gave us stuff, Signet gave us loads of stuff. And through time, all these organisations helped us. We had Lights and Tobacco Factory, we had drapes from Theatre Royal Plymouth. You know what I mean? That generosity that you have in the Southwest and within the sector is great. We're sort of 4 weeks after the Bike Shed's closed now, so I'm kind of in a slightly different headspace from it. But, and I don't know whether this is just kind of wishful thinking that I want there to be stuff that carries on, but I am encouraged by the fact that there are loads of conversations happening in the city in terms of what happens. I would like them to be more joined up, and I don't know whether I'll give it another kind of few weeks before I go, if no one else is going to do this, and I'm talking to other people about bringing those conversations together.
The Bike Shed has done an awful lot for Exeter, and the Exeter and Devon in general is a lot richer for it. So thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you.
Sorry to give you so much more to have to edit.
You're nobody till somebody loves you. You're nobody till somebody cares. You may be king, you may possess the world and its gold, but gold won't bring you happiness when you're growing old. the same, you never change it. As sure as the stars shine above, you're nobody till somebody loves you. So find yourself somebody to love. The world still is the same, you never change it. As sure as the stars shine above, well, you're nobody till somebody loves you. So find yourself somebody